Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And I was thinking about the mistake that I probably make most often in my understanding of the principles behind the inside-out understanding. This stuff that I talk about on these podcasts each week. This understanding that we are made of this alive, intelligent energy. And we experience it through this capacity, this awareness that we call consciousness. And that the variability within that is all this creative force called thought. And I have often thought, and this is what I mean, this is my core mistake, and I know I'm not alone in this one, that my understanding of how the mind works, of these three principles, of the inside-out nature of experience, that we're living in the feeling of our thinking, not the feeling of our circumstances, should help me cope better with life's challenges. And that if I really understand this, I'll be able to cope with financial challenges. I'll be able to cope with relationship challenges. I'll be able to cope with the world and the unfairness in the world and whatever it is that I see as the problems in the world and in my life. And the reason that's a mistake, and the insight that I have eventually every single time, is that it's not my understanding of the three principles of the nature of the human experience that helps me cope. It's my misunderstanding of how things work that makes it look like there's stuff to cope with. And this has happened so many times to me over the years, where I'll have what seems like a really stressful situation at work, and I think I'm dealing with this stressful situation really well. And then I realize, this only looks stressful to me because I think my experience is coming from the situation, not being created inside me via thought experienced in consciousness brought to life by the divine mind, this universal, constant intelligence and aliveness that we are made of. And so now I've made the mistake enough times that when it feels like I'm coping with things and I'm trying to use this understanding to cope better, I'm kind of suspicious. Because I kind of know that inevitably it's going to turn out that the reason it feels like there's something I need to cope with this really scary person, I need to cope with this high pressure situation, I need to cope with this incredible amount of stress that life is giving me, is because temporarily I've lost sight of the fact that I'm experiencing thought, not circumstance. That there is nothing outside of us that can make us feel any particular way. And if you're ever not sure about that, just notice, does everybody feel the same way about this? Do I even feel the same way about this all the time? And I've yet to come up with something where the answer is always yes, which means we're making it up, which means we're coping with something that we have inadvertently made up and created. So what's the alternative? Well, as you may have guessed if you read the title, the alternative is to thrive. And thriving is something that is also independent of circumstances. Thriving is simply living in the flow of this alive, intelligent energy that we are made of. It is a sense. It is a felt sense. Think about, just as a little way of clarifying for this for yourself, think about 3 people that you know. And think about whether or not you would describe them as thriving. And then notice, what is it that gives you the sense that they're thriving or not thriving? And when I've done with this with groups, I know that while occasionally there are answers like, well, look at all the things that are happening, underneath all the things that are happening, there's a sense that, oh, this person is doing really well. They're really settled in themselves. Whereas there are other people who are doing really well on paper, but when you spend any time with them at all, you can see, oh, they're not thriving. They're just slowly hanging on for dear life. You can do the same thing with businesses. Think about 3 businesses that you're familiar with. And without knowing any more than you know, would you say that those businesses are thriving? I'll often do this kind of just almost as a game when I go to a new hotel, which I do less often than I used to, but I'm beginning to do more. And you can kind of tell, oh, is this place thriving? And it's not, there might be nobody around, but you can still feel it. If it's alive, if it's fresh, there's something about it. There's an X factor. That X factor is that sense of thriving, and we respond to it. We want to be a part of that energy. And if it's us, we want to be in that energy. We love it when we're thriving. And the only reason that we don't thrive more is because we think we have to get our circumstances right in order for us to thrive. Well, I'll be able to thrive once I take care of all this stuff I'm coping with. Well, I'll be able to thrive once I have more money. Well, I'll be able to thrive once I get this person out of my life or get somebody new into my life. But when you separate out the experience of thriving, the energy of thriving, from the various forms that we tend to associate it with, you realize that you could be thriving right now. You are one thought away from thriving, and it's probably a thought about what you need to cope with or take care of first before you're allowed to thrive. So your experiment for this week, if you want to take on an experiment, is first, notice what you're coping with. And notice if it's something that really is something that needs to be dealt with, in which case, of course, deal with it. Or are you coping with the feelings that you think your circumstances are causing? In which case, you might want to take a fresh look and see if you can see for yourself that the feelings come and go, even when the situation changes, even when the situation stays the same. And then the second part is spend some time this week thriving. You can do it right now. Just notice in your body right now, where in your body can you feel the spark of life? You might feel it as a tingle. You might feel it as a warmth. But most people, when they go inside and they feel, they can find a bit of sparkiness, a bit of bubble, a bit of the good stuff. And just let that fill you up and bubble over. And when it bubbles over, take the overflow and give that to yourself. And you'll find it becomes almost like a champagne fountain of energy. If you've ever seen one of those old movies where they pour the champagne into the top glass and it overflows into the next row of glasses, which overflow into the next row of glasses. That thriving energy, when we notice it, when we attend to it, it bubbles over. And it becomes something that not only gives us a nicer experience of being alive, but it draws others to us and to what we do. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.